My name is Kelly Dale, and I'm with Off the Beaten Path, which is located in Forest City, North Carolina. Last week, I taught you how to make the Eden pendant. Today, I want to continue on with that series and teach you how to make the Eden ring. It's basically the pendant with a few changes. So for the ring, you are going to need 37 3mm rounds. These beads need to be completely round, no facets. 12 6mm round beads. Again, no facets, completely round. 6 4mm round beads. Again, completely round, no facets. 1 3.9mm Montee. This is going to go in the very center. 2 grams of a size 15 seed bead. 2 yards of a 4-pound fire line. 1 size 12 needle, 12 inches of 0.5mm stretch magic, and an option for you is 6 3mm bicones. These will go along the top. And I'll show you when we get to that step. If you don't necessarily like the bicones on the top, or you don't have those bicones, you can use the 3mm round beads to do the top with. So that's always a good option for you. So go ahead and get your materials together, and then we'll make this fun new ring. Hey there! My name is Kelly Dale, and I'm with Off the Beaten Path, which is located in Forest City, North Carolina. Last week, I taught you how to make the Eden pendant. Today, I want to continue on with that series and teach you how to make the Eden ring. It's basically the pendant with a few changes. So for the ring, you are going to need 37 3mm rounds. These beads need to be completely round, no facets. 12 6mm round beads. Again, no facets, completely round. 6 4mm round beads. Again, completely round, no facets. 1 3.9mm Montee. This is going to go in the very center. 2 grams of a size 15 seed bead. 2 yards of a 4-pound fire line. 1 size 12 needle, 12 inches of 0.5mm stretch magic, and an option for you is 6 3mm bicones. These will go along the top. And I'll show you when we get to that step. If you don't necessarily like the bicones on the top, or you don't have those bicones, you can use the 3mm round beads to do the top with. So that's always a good option for you. So go ahead and get your materials together, and then we'll make this fun new ring. I have my needle threaded on my 2 yards of fire line. The first thing I'm going to do is pick up 6 3mm rounds. I'm going to let these rounds drop all the way down, and I'm going to go back through all 6 beads again, going from the tail upward. And the color I'm using on these is a 3mm bronze Swarovski pearl. Okay, if I can get a hold of it. There we go. Okay, one of the biggest problems that I find in beading and teaching beading is when people do this, they pull it apart and they go, oh, I messed something up. There's a line, there's a string going straight across. You've not messed anything up. You're just not pulling the beads the way that you need to. You want to pull them just like this to get them into that circular position. Once you do that, you're going to take the thread and you're going to tie it into some knots. Normally, I put just a couple of good ones in here, and then I take the needle and I'm going to go through a couple of the beads. Then I'm going to use my thread zapper, my ultra thread zap, to get rid of that little tail so it's out of the way. The next beads I'm going to be using are 6mm teal druck beads. So I'm going to pick up 3 of these beads. And I'm currently coming out of this little 3mm right here. I want to make a circle, so I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come back through that same bead so that it makes the circle. So I'm going to come through it the same way. when it pulls, it's going to make a little ring of beads like this. You're going to see thread in between these 6 millimeters, but that's completely okay because what you're going to do in the next step is going to fix that for you. Take your needle and come down through the first 6 millimeter that you strung on. Pick up 2 6 millimeters. Take your needle and come to the next 3 millimeter in the circle and come back towards that 3 millimeter. I'm going to come down through the 3 millimeter where my thread is exiting, through the down through the 6 millimeter where my thread is exiting, through the 2 6 millimeters I just added, and then through the next 3 millimeter in the little ring. So again, I'm going through the 6 millimeter right where the thread's coming out, through the 2 6 millimeters that I just added. Now, as you can see, I'm keeping my fingers on those beads so that they don't get loose. And then I'm going through the very next 3 millimeter in the ring. Pick up 2 6 millimeters. Take the needle, come right back up through that side 6 millimeter, and then through the 3 millimeter on the base. To get into position to add my next set, I'm just going to come right through the 6 millimeter where the thread's coming out. Pick up 2 6 millimeters. Come to the next 3 millimeter in the circle and come back towards that 6 millimeter. I'm going to come through the 6 millimeter where my thread's exiting, through the 2 6 millimeters I just added. See, I didn't get a hold of that thread. There we go. Or I didn't get a hold of that bead, so that's why it's important to hold it. And then I'm going to go through the next 3 millimeter in the circle. Pick up 2 6 millimeters. I'm going to make a circle, so I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come back up through the same 6 millimeter, through the 3 millimeter on the base, and then through the 6 millimeter right where my thread's exiting. So I only have 1 bead left, so I'm going to pick up the 1 bead, and I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come down through the first 6 millimeter I threaded on. So this is the one I'm currently exiting. This is the one here that I'm coming down through, so that when you pull, that gives you a nice dome shape. Do not flatten it out, okay? Because you want a dome, and that's what you've got. I'm going to go through the 3 millimeter here in the circle, and then through 2 6 millimeters, so I'm coming out of an outer 6 millimeter. So through this 3 millimeter, and then through the 6, and this outward 6. This is where we're going to do a little alternative for the piece. You want to pick up 4 15s, and now you can either pick up a 3 millimeter round or a 3 millimeter bicone. Either one will work. And then 2 more 15s. I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come through the 3 millimeter that is right below the 6 millimeter I'm coming out of. So I'm going to come through that bead, pick up 2 15s, and I'm going to go through the 3 millimeter. I'm going to put my finger on it so it doesn't move there. And then I'm going to pick up 4 15s, and I'm going to come through the 6 millimeter here at the top. So this is what it should look like so far. I'm going to pick up one 4mm round, and I'm going to come through the next 6mm on this outer edge. Then I'm going to pick up the beads like I did here. So I'm going to have 4 15s, one 3mm round or bicone, 2 15s, and I'm going to come to the next 3mm in the circle, and I'm going to go through just that 3mm. And see, like I went through it, but it got caught up in this little 15 right here, so I'm just going to back out of that bead. No big deal. Well, I said it wasn't a big deal, and now I done got my thread caught. No, there we go. All right, pick up 2 15s and go through the 3mm. And then I gotta get me some more 15s here. Then I'm gonna pick up 4 15s. And I'm gonna come back through the 6mm so that finishes out the next little X shape. And then pick up one 4mm and come through the next 6mm along the outer edge. And I'm going to repeat doing my X's 1, 2, 3, 4 more times, and I'm going to be sure and put those 4mm in place around the outer edge. I've worked all the way around doing my embellishments and adding my little 4mm along the outer edge, and I've stitched through the beads to exit any one of the 3mm in the center. I'm going to pick up 1 15, 1 Montee, and 1 15. I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come through this this 3mm that's opposite the one that I'm coming out of. And I was going through my stash at home and found these Pacific Opal Montees because I knew that it would, when I found them, I thought, oh my gosh, this would go great with this this color scheme. But once these are gone, that's all that we'll do the kits with these, enough that I found, and then once they're gone, we'll have to replace this with another color. So I'm going to pick up 1 15 and I'm going to go through the other hole in the Montee. So I'm making that X shape. Then I'm going to pick up 1 15 and I'm going to come through the 3mm that I started with so that when I go through it, let me wiggle through it there, it will finish out the little X shape that I've made here because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 size 15 seed beads making that X shape. So it covers up that hole in the middle. Now I'm going to stitch through my beads to exit a 6mm anywhere along the outer edge. Once you're exiting the end, any one of those 6mm, you're ready to start the embellishments on the outside of the ring. So only when you're coming out of the 6mm, you're going to pick up 9 15s. Excuse me. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright, so I have my 9 beads. I'm going to come back through the same 6mm so that when I pull, the thread will wrap around that bead and make a little loop. I'm going to go up through one bead, that first 15 that I added in this round. This time I'm going to pick up 6 15s. I'm going to take the needle and come back through the next 4mm in the circle so that I'm going back towards those beads I've already added. I'm going to come up through the connection bead, which is this one little 15 right here. This is where it connects the 2 loops together. So I'm going through that connection 15 through the 6 that I added and then through the next 6 millimeter. So through that connection 15, through the 6 15s that I added, and then through the next 6 millimeter here along the outer edge, so that this is what your piece looks like so far. I'm going to go pick up 8 15s. So the first one was 9 because this is our very first one. Then this is 6. This one is going to be 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come back down through this very first, or this 15 here. This will be my connection 15. Through the 6 millimeter. And then up through 115 right after the 6 millimeter. So now this bead becomes my connection bead. Pick up 6 15s. Come to the next 4 millimeter and you're going to come back through it towards your other beadwork. Then you want to come up through the connection 15, which is just that one that connects to 2, through the 6 15s, and then through the next 6 millimeter. Now you want 8 15s. Take your needle, come through the bead, the little 15 right after the 4 millimeter, through the 6 millimeter, and then up through 115 right after that 6 millimeter. So you're going to continue adding your little loops of beads until you get to this 6 millimeter. Once you finish this one, stop, because we have to finish off the 4 millimeter differently than all the rest of them. I'm back around to my last 4 millimeter. I have came up through the little size 15 seed bead like I normally would. Now this time you only want to pick up 5 15s. So you're not going to pick up 6, only 5. And once you pick up those 5, then you're going to take your needle and come through that first 15 on the other side of that little 4 millimeter, so that when you do that, it finishes out the little loop. I'm going to stitch through the 4 millimeter, the 6 millimeter, back out of these 2 seed beads here, and then the 4 millimeter. I'm ready to start the ring band, and the X shape is like this. So I want to make sure that I start my ring band on these 4 millimeters here on each side of that X, because here's half of it and here's the other half. So I want it to be nice and straight as I work. So I'm coming out of the 4 millimeter. I'm going to come up through 5 seed beads. So the connection bead, it counts as 1. So I went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beads. I'm going to pick up 2 15s, 1 3 millimeter, and you want to make sure you get one with a good clear hole, and then 2 15s. So 2 15s, a 3 millimeter, and 2 15s. I'm going to come back up through the last 3 15s that I went through. I'm going to go through this several times, and then I'm going to stitch over to this side and do the same thing. Once you finish this side, I suggest that you go through these beads here along the outer edge again and be sure and reinforce these loops right here very, very good. I've worn one of these rings a lot, like every day. I wore it. I loved it. I wore it so much that the color started coming off of some of my beads. But the only place I've ever had breakage is right here at the clasp, or right here where it meets the band meets the ring. Now, I've tried to combat this by doing a different type, a different way with the ring band. It's going to look a little different. It's going to look like this on my newer ones. But I will suggest that you go through these beads several times to help really help it stay good and secure, so that you can get a long, good wear out of this ring with this with the outer edge like it is. I have both ring band starters finished, and I've tied off the thread with my half-hitch knots, and I've went ahead and threaded my 0.5 millimeter stretch magic through this little 3 millimeter on one of the ring band sides. And you want to even out the thread, and you're going to thread 1 3 millimeter onto each piece. Now, these are Swarovski crystal or Swarovski pearls that I'm using, and they come actually on a strand. So when you pull them off the strand, sometimes the holes can be plugged up a little bit on one side. So you may have to take, if you've got one of those great little beading awls for tulip that we've been selling, you may want to take your little awl and stick it through the side of the hole that's a little plugged up, so that way you won't have any trouble crossing through these 3 millimeters here. So it looks like I'm going to have, nope, there it goes. Alright, so I'm crossing through, I've got one on each thread. I'm crossing through one so that when I pull it, it gives me my little 4-bead box. So I'm going to continue picking up one pearl on each thread, and then picking up one and crossing through it until I have enough that I'm comfortable with for the length of my ring band. Be sure to finish with 1 3 millimeter onto each band. So I have the length of my ring band that I want, and I've got 1 3 millimeter onto each end. I'm going to take one thread, and I'm going to go through the 3 millimeter here on the other end of the bracelet, or the ring. And when you pull it through, you want to take and tie these 2 threads into a knot. Be careful not to get the 3 millimeter left on the one side caught up into the knot. And then you want to put a couple of knots in it. Pulling it good and tight, and then you're going to trim the ends so that once you put it on, now you have a beautiful new ring to go with your Eden pendant. So I hope you guys enjoyed the Eden ring. We will have, I know as of right now, we will have 3 color samples on the website. We will have the turquoise teal color that matches the turquoise one from last week. We'll have the brown cocoa color that matches the brown from last week. And we'll have the black, again, which matches the black from last week. The only one I'm not sure about yet is the purple one, because I'm having trouble finding a 6 millimeter pearl in the same color of the 8 millimeter that I had ordered, or even a color close to it. So if I can find those, we will definitely have a purple one on there also. You can also find the written pattern on our website, which is offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. Be sure and come back next week when I'm going to show you how to make the Eden bracelet. So I hope you guys have a fabulous week. We'll see you on Monday for our next Must Know Monday video.